Hey everybody, it's Mallory, Program Assistant at the Ecology School, here with another Nature Nugget. So today we are going to be taking soil samples in different areas around my house and making observations and using our senses to compare those soil samples in different areas. I'm also going to be demonstrating how to take soil smudges, and that's a really great way to collect data and keep data and take notes as well. So all you need for today's Nature Nugget is your sense of observation and some paper and something to write with. So for my first soil sample, I am just sitting here in the grassy area of my yard. For my next sample, I might go closer to the trees, and then I also have some garden beds that I might take a soil sample from just to compare those different areas and see if I notice any differences. But in order to take that soil sample, I am just taking a pinch of soil from the top there, and then I'm just going to use my senses to make some observations. So when I look at this, I notice that it's mostly a light brown color. There's a lot of dead grass in there. There's also some very small rocks. When I feel it, it feels pretty dry. There's not a lot of water or moisture held in this sample, and I can feel those small rocks and those pieces of grass as well. I'm also going to use my sense of smell. And when I smell the sample, it's not too strong of a smell, but it definitely smells kind of like grass, a little bit earthy. So now that I have made some observations about my soil sample, I'm going to demonstrate how I collect a soil smudge. And again, this is a way to kind of record the look of that soil on paper and take some notes. So that pinch of soil that I had been feeling and looking at, I'm just going to take a very small amount of it. And on my paper here, I've got an area for the yard, and I am just going to firmly drag that pinch of soil across the paper a couple of times, brush off any excess, and then I've got my soil smudge. And this is also a great area if you wanted to record some of those notes that you noticed about your soil sample. So again, I noticed it was dry, it had a lot of grass in it, and then I'm going to do this in a couple of different areas in my backyard and see if I notice any differences. Alright, so I've just taken some soil samples and done some soil smudges in different areas around my house, and I've recorded my data here. So I went to our garden bed, and I noticed in the soil sample that it had some moisture in it when I felt it, and it felt a little bit grittier, a little bit coarser. There were larger particles. And as you can see, my soil smudge is a little bit darker than when we were just in the grass in the yard. We also have a kind of sandy, rocky area in our yard, and when I took my soil smudge, it came out really light, and it was very dry. I didn't feel any moisture in that sample, and I could see larger, coarser, grittier rocks in that sample. I also went over near some trees closer to the forest line, and that sample was pretty moist. It was holding onto some water, and it felt really smooth. I wasn't feeling a lot of those gritty particles like I was in some other areas. And it came out kind of close to the garden and how dark it was. So by taking these soil samples and making those observations, you can start to compare different areas and start to make some observations about those areas. And you might start to ask some questions or make some guesses about why samples might look or feel the way that they do. I noticed that the samples that had a little bit more moisture or were a little bit darker were areas where there were more plants growing. So I wonder if there's a connection between those. But I hope that you enjoyed today's Nature Nugget and that you have a chance to get outside and take some soil samples of your own.